people who wish to address us as well. I will cover that when we get to that point. Please proceed.
On this item, before I start, I'd like to make a clarification. There's a typo in the board report as far as identification of the weight of the trucks that are restricted in the tunnel. The current text in the report says 33,000 tons. It should be 33,000 pounds. This is based on the federal requirements for the classification of these equipment.
We're only out by a factor of 2,000. Go ahead.
Okay, so on this item, the SR 710 North is currently in the environmental planning and preliminary engineering studies. It's been in the phase since 2011. Metro Measure are allocated $780 million to this project. About $35 million is spent to date on development of the environmental document and the preliminary engineering. The document assigned about 100 square miles in San Gabriel Valley in the corridor as the area of impact of the project and studies the effects of the absence of the freeway in that area, as well as the improvements that can cause operational and traffic enhancements in the area. The study considered a no-build alternative as standard protocol, and then three major build alternatives. One was a freeway tunnel, one was bus rapid transit investment, and one was an LRT, light rail. And there was what is called a TSM-TDM component with all of this, which is transportation system management and transportation demand management. These are projects that can contribute to the effectiveness of the work in the area and can be done in a shorter period of time. The alternative analysis and the environmental document were open to public process. We received about 8,000 comments on the document. All of those are addressed in the final environmental document and will be attached to the document when it's released at the end of the year. Technical studies were conducted to assess the benefits and impacts of all of these alternatives based on performance measures that were set, and also an additional cost-benefit analysis that was done. And in the attachments that you have, attachment B reflects the evaluation matrix, all the categories that these projects were assessed against. The technical analysis that was performed during the environmental process showed that the freeway tunnel alternative was the most consistent with the purpose and need statement and performance measures that you see on attachment B. The freeway alternative is shown in attachment C of the package that you have. The concept is a single bore, two lanes in each direction that connects the southern end of the corridor to the northern end of the corridor between I-10 and I-210. Considering the size and cost of the build alternatives, short-term improvement projects were also considered. These are the TSM-TDM work. They were developed with collaboration of the impacted cities and the TAC during the development of the project. Attachment D is a reflection of the TSM-TDM projects. Approximately $150 million worth of these early action projects are identified in the document, but there's also the flexibility of identifying more early action projects and corrective measures to be done and added to this component. The environmental document is expected to be completed by the end of this year, and ultimately Caltrans will select the preferred alternative and sign the document. We expect that to be early 2018. With that, I'd like to introduce Michelle Smith, Metro Project Manager, and Yuval Chandran, Consultant Project Manager, who have worked on this project for the past 8 years. And thank them for their work on this. And then we come back to the board in November, December of this year with the final update.
Did you say 8 years? So they're newcomers. They're newcomers to this.
Yes. Well, I started my career on this project. 1981, when we were facing the issues with the first environmental document.
Yes, it has a long life, so please proceed.
Yes.
Okay. I've got some questions. Actually, first I'll turn to my colleagues. Are there any questions? We do have a number of public to hear from, probably about 25. We will hear from the public. I do want to ask a question on the economic analysis, because I think that, to me, is one of the issues at hand here. We have $3 billion for the cost of the single bore tunnel, and $5 billion for the double bore. Is that correct? Somewhere around there?
Yes, let me ask David Yale to come up and give a very, very quick summary of the economics and the financial picture.
Thank you. I'm David Yale, Senior Executive Officer for Planning, Programming, and Grants, and I'm here just to summarize what we've included in our long-range plan assumptions for the project. The total project cost in the plan is assumed to be $5.6 billion in year of expenditure dollars, which would be consistent with the single tunnel option in current dollars. And about 20% of the money for that is from revenues that are backed by existing taxes, including Measure R. The other 80% is either revenues backed by taxes that don't yet exist or by tolls. And so approximately $1 billion is sort of real money, and the rest is money that we've assumed would materialize but has not yet done so.
So let me go into a little more depth. I think one of the issues that, and I will freely admit that I was one of those that thought that we had the funding in Measure R, which was $780 million, of which I think there's still $730 remaining. But that the P3, which would be the private sector coming in, building and operating the tunnel, was my understanding, was the concept. And that tolling would take place, and that this would fill a good part of that gap. You're saying now, how much is the gap? Based on the cost-benefit analysis that I've looked at, that have been published, suggested that for the single bore tunnel was fairly close on a benefit-cost ratio. The double bore did not come close to benefits exceeding cost. But I've gotten the sense that something's really moved to make it harder to make those numbers work. Is there more information on that?
Well, the key assumption is how much can you raise from tolling the facility. And I don't believe we have a traffic and revenue study conducted yet. The long-range plan assumption was just 50% toll funded.
Okay.
And that may be a high-end assumption. We see typical P3s have about a third to a half.
Good morning. My name is Barbara Messina, City Councilwoman from the City of Alhambra. First of all, I want to thank Bill Washington, his staff, and Caltrans staff for a very, very thorough EIR report. Spent a lot of money to get it right. It's accurate, thorough, responsible report. Also, Metro staff followed the analysis and concluded that the tunnel is the best option. This project is what Metro is all about, solving problems. The tunnel is the solution, and I hope and pray that the Metro staff, the Metro board, realizes and supports that. I remember this past weekend hearing Councilman Najarian make a comment at Contract Cities. Submit your projects. The money will be there. We will find it. I hope you find it. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Lee? Is Stephen here? Let's move next. Go ahead.
Yes.
Are you speaking on his behalf?
Yes, I'm speaking on his behalf. My name is Brian Lewin. I'm also the City of Rosemead's representative to the Stakeholder Outreach Advisory Committee.
Go ahead.
And, okay, first I did want to thank Metro staff for a lot of work. I've been coming to these meetings for several years, and invested a phenomenal amount of time and energy on this, and I really appreciate all the work that Metro has done on this. And also the CEO of the Washington for his support as well. The tunnel was chosen as the best option. There's no others adequately address and resolve the traffic issues that have faced this region for over half a century. While the transportation system management, transportation demand management may improve some traffic flow, relying solely on those essentially just continues the burden on the communities that have been bearing the congestion, infrastructure, air quality burdens for the past half century. So,
Please conclude.
yes, okay. In short, this is the fairest, most equitable solution for the region and for all the residents of all of the communities. I strongly ask that you support this option. Thank you.
Brenda Kuvasarian, followed by Gado Benutian, followed by Teresa Real Sebastian, followed by Jason Pu, followed by Henry Lowe, followed by Terry Walker. Please proceed.
Greetings, everyone, supervisors and directors, Najarian, Jackie Dupont Walker, and Chair Fasana. This may be an ad hoc committee for you, but it's a town hall for me and a regional committee for me meeting. I had a really great talk with Barbara Messina earlier. Actually, this is the first time we've sat and talked for a while, and we're both here advocating for what we believe is right and best, and we're clearly looking at some different facts, but we are going to get together and we're going to exchange and look at these facts. What I'm looking at is a solution here to a problem that is a local problem. 85% of the traffic that's coming off that south stub is local traffic. It would not necessarily benefit from a tunnel connecting the south stub to the north stub at the 210. The 210 is already very congested at peak traffic hours. It is at a standstill. I take that to the Pasadena to Chapcare and back, and there are a lot of trucks on the freeway there, and it doesn't move. A freeway makes sense.
I'm going to ask you to conclude. We have a lot of speakers.
I'm done, just finishing my sentence. I was going to say, freeway made sense some 50 years ago when freeways moved at 50 miles an hour, but now additional is just going to make them worse. Thank you.
Thank you. Gado Benutian.
Hi, thank you for having me. As you know, Assemblymember Holden represents a significant number of communities in the 710 North Study area. He supports a community-based and open process to implement the solution that relieves traffic, connects communities, and reduces air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. Unfortunately, the tunnel is by far the worst alternative. One, the cost, billions of dollars, as we heard, is not there. It doesn't relieve traffic area. It really just shifts traffic from one area to another. And third, extending the freeway is just going to add more cars to the road, increasing air pollution, as well as increasing greenhouse gas emissions. And Assemblymember Holden is urging Metro to remove the tunnel from consideration, as well as to not finalize or certify the EIR, and create a transparent and open process for communities to develop consensus on the most viable solution for the region. And lastly, to immediately allocate Measure R funds to projects in the area that help relieve traffic congestion and benefit the community.
Thank you. Teresa Real Sebastian.
Good morning. I'm a member of the 710 Coalition Mayor for the City of Monterey Park, and I'm here to urge you to please support the 710 tunnel and adopt the recommendation by staff to receive and file. We know this project isn't fully funded today, but Metro has had a long history of approving projects that require mega funding. So give us the opportunity to get that funding. And there is very, very strong community support here for the tunnel. As you all know, you've all read the report. You see what the tunnel does. It alleviates congestion. And to say that we are just independent little cities, no, we're not. We're not islands. We're a big community. We are a huge metro area, and your responsibility is to make sure that people from over here can get here. So to think that this is a small local problem is not correct. And there's strong community support for the tunnel. Independent polling by Mayor Garcetti's own pollster shows a 2-to-1 support for the tunnel. So please, I am here to implore you, please, please, please receive and file. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason Pu.
morning. Jason Poo, council member, City of San Gabriel, member of 710 Coalition. You've already seen the EIR report and seen the data that the tunnel option is the only option that provides net reductions in traffic congestion and pollution for the entire region. So the case there that this is the right thing to do for the region has already been made, and it's already been the recommended option of the staff as well. I want to drive home another point here, that this is not just a transportation issue, but also an environmental justice issue. For decades, wealthier residents in communities like La Cañada, Flint Ridge, Pasadena, South Pasadena, will actually believe, as Mayor Sebastian Real just stated, they actually represent the minority of voters in those communities. They block the completion of the 710 to the detriment of poor, more immigrant, largely Latino and Asian populations along the 10 and 60 corridor, including in the communities of East Los Angeles, Monterey Park, Alhambra, San Gabriel, and Roseby. When you look at the regional cancer and asthma rates, it is much higher in our communities than it is in those northern communities. So I implore you to please do not turn your backs on our communities.
Thank you. Henry Lowe, followed by Terry Walker, followed by, I think it's Ken Okavillo.
Hello, good afternoon, good morning. This is Henry Lowe, the Assembly Member at Child's office, and we're here to represent our constituents in the 49th District and to stand with the 710 Coalition. And we're here to support the tunnel. If you look at the heart of the study area, you'll find that the heart of that study area is in the Assembly Member's District 49, and our cities are the most impacted by the failure to close the gap. For decades, our constituents have had to endure poor air quality and hours of traffic congestion. Many of our children attend schools that are near these roads and are exposed to health-threatening air pollution when vehicles are left to idle due to the congestion caused by commuters trying to circumvent the 710 gap. This is an environmental justice issue, it's a quality of life issue for our constituents, and we're here to ask this Metro Board and the staff to support the 710 tunnel. It's time to break the 6-year impasse and finally close the gap, and we do so by supporting the tunnel. Thank you.
Thank you. Terry Walker.
I guess you already know my name. I'm Mayor Pro Tem from the city of La Cañada, Flint Ridge. And today is a very sad day for our town. We lost one of the great ones, longtime city councilman, 6-time mayor, a man with a heart of gold and a friend all of you knew him, Dave Spence. Many of you knew him. And trust me, this is the last place I want to be today. But Dave was not only my dear, dear friend, but my mentor. And those of you who know him know he would have said, Terry, buck up, do the responsible thing, and get down there and fight for what you believe is right for our community. So here I am. Public transportation took a big step forward with the passage of Measure M. However, in contrast, this tunnel would be a big step backwards. First of all, it's in direct conflict with Metro's goals regarding greenhouse emissions, the reduction of it. Funding, as we spoke about earlier, is questionable. It does not decrease traffic, it simply displaces it from one community to another. Continuing the debate on this tunnel certainly doesn't create jobs. It hinders the creation of jobs. Coming up with a viable alternative will create jobs. It's divisive, it pits city against city. We're wasting our resources on this debate, this decade-old debate, when we could use them towards an alternative. So,
please conclude.
we ask that you finally kill this project once and for all, so all of our communities can move forward for a viable option for the good of every community in our region. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken Okavillo, followed by Richard Schneider, followed by Christina Morris.
Good morning. My name is Kevin Okavillo, speaking to you today on behalf of LA City Councilman Jose Huizar and as representative of the City of Los Angeles. I'd like to reiterate for the record the city's long-standing opposition to any variation of the tunnel freeway. Both the single and dual bore tunnel options include a proposal to cut and cover sections that intersect Valley Boulevard, designs that actively ignore 2 legislative resolutions of the City of Los Angeles. Moreover, contrary to some of the comments made here today, the construction of the tunnel freeway furthers the environmental injustice suffered by Eastside residents at the hands of previous state-sponsored freeway construction projects. The alternatives, as currently proposed, are inadequate. Nearly a third of the study area falls within our city, yet the proposed improvements for the alternatives are neither proportionate nor equitable to the residents of Los Angeles. It's clear that much more cost-effective solutions and investment could be made to maximize the existing transportation system. The set of non-freeway alternatives considered in the DEIR must be significantly improved, or we should create new ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Richard Schneider. Please proceed.
Thank you and good morning. My name is Dr. Richard Schneider. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem of the City of South Pasadena. And of course, we would like the 710 killed at this meeting or in the Metro Board. Recently, Metro put an update out saying that the single board tunnel was a preferred alternative, but was not fundable. And my reaction to that is, you have the fiduciary responsibility to spend the public's money wisely. And my question is, why would you spend millions of dollars continuing the study of the 710 tunnel when it's not fundable and not buildable? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Christina Morris, followed by Ron Miller.
Good morning. I'm here today representing the National Trust for Historic Preservation, as well as our partners, the Natural Resources Defense Council. Our national advocacy organizations have been involved in this issue for nearly 30 years as a result of our deep concern for the natural and cultural resources that could be harmed by the tunnel alternative. We were surprised to see the recommendation for a single-bore tunnel alternative given the inadequate analysis of impacts in the draft DEIR that we commented on extensively, and the fact that Caltrans is still preparing a finding of adverse effect, which has yet to be released for review. We look forward to seeing those findings soon, along with the State Historic Preservation Office, the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation, and numerous other consulting parties in compliance with Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act. Given the need for considerable additional analysis and the exorbitant cost of this, the most sensible path is to set aside the tunnel now and pursue other alternatives that will provide more modes of transportation, improve regional air quality, and protect historic neighborhoods and their communities, and that can also be implemented with the funds that are already available. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron Miller.
Good morning, honorable directors, CEO, and staff. On behalf of Ron Miller, my name is Chris Hannon, representative for the Los Angeles Orange County's Building and Construction Trades Council. On behalf of our 47 affiliates and the 140,000 members that they represent and that live in the affected communities, we support the tunnel. We support receiving and filing the report today, and we appreciate the hard work that was put in and the experts that put hard work into the report and all of Metro's hard work on the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Williams, followed by Joe Cano, followed by Sam Burgess.
Good morning, Dr. Tom Williams, LA 32 Neighborhood Council Director. I'm also concerned about equality. We've been hammered by Alhambra for a long time. However, let's look at the receive and file. First off, tons versus pounds. Are there any other problems in this file? Yeah, maybe, because I think this is the second time when we've gotten vehicles per day. That is 90,000 vehicles per day. How many of those are trucks? Our estimation is that there are 20,000 trucks going to be using that tunnel. You gotta get a toll. Hey, cheapest way is to get the trucks. That alleviates trucks on I-5 and a few other places, which are also part of the thing. So we have a lot of problems with 90,000, with the portals, and with the tons.
Thank you.
Do not receive and send it back.
Joe Cano, followed by Sam Burgess, followed by Lee Dolly, followed by Paul Paris.
Joe Cano, resident of El Sereno. I had a prepared statement to say, but once I heard this insulting comment by the 710 Coalition speaking for Mexican Americans in El Sereno that has been consistently ignored. The 710 Coalition goes into East LA and they pit two Mexican American communities against each other, okay? We talked about environmental justice. What about El Sereno? In all this discussion, El Sereno is ignored. Oh, the minorities here, the minorities there. Got nothing but a bunch of racist trying to push a tunnel through a minority community that will be greatly affected by the pollution. Do not listen to these people. Mr. Fasana, do the right thing. Don't appear like one of the members of the band that played on when the Titanic sank, because that's what this tunnel is. It's a sinking ship. Do the right thing. Guard your legacy.
Thank you. Sam Burgess, followed by Lee Dolly, followed by Paul Perez, followed by Bill Sherman.
Thank you. I've been speaking out against this extension of the 710 since early 1973, 40 plus years. I'm also a member of the No 710 Action Committee, which is a wide variety of individuals, groups, and organizations throughout the region. I explained to people that the No 710 Action Committee has members who are proud members of the Tea Party and who proudly proclaim their socialist viewpoints. We come together for about one reason and one question, a question that I have been asking for these 40 plus years. What is it as a society we wish to leave the future? Do we wish to leave the future of viable and livable communities, or do we wish to leave the future of ribbons of asphalt? Thank you.
Thank you. Lee Dolly?
Good morning, all. I just want to add that this gentleman in 1971, John Fasana was there in 1971, Barbara Messina, and a few of us, and we've been here a long time supporting this project and getting this thing finished. We have looked in depth into the document known as the draft environmental impact statement. That document, factually, and I would say maybe facts count today everywhere. That fact, those facts support the tunnel being built. It shows that the tunnel itself will reduce air pollution 98%, at least 95, if not 80%. It also shows a wide, this is a huge, wide swath of traffic reduction, going all the way to the 605, the 210, and elsewhere. Look at the facts. They support the tunnel strongly. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Paul Paris?
Good morning. My name is Paul Perez. I'm a traffic commissioner for the city of Monterey Park, and I'm also here as a concerned citizen. I'm also part of the 710 Coalition. I thank all of you for your hard work, dedicated work to benefit our communities. I realize all of society cannot be satisfied by your recommendations, but we must look at and trust statistics. 5.6 to 1, almost 6 to 1 are all in favor of your recommendation for the single bore tunnel option. Now let's allow Caltrans to do what follows and get this project completed. Research shows that this single bore tunnel option has the minimal right-of-way impacts and has maximum cost efficiency of public investment. We look forward to signing of the final EIR and to Caltrans certification of the project. I worked for Caltrans for 47 years. I'm retired and worked on completion of this since the 1970s. It's about time that we put this behind us and help the public. It's going to help traffic congestion, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Bill Sherman, followed by Ron Bowe, followed by Stephen Lee.
Dr. Bill Sherman, No 710 Action Committee. This report is a piece of trash. It's a misrepresentation of the facts. It's alternative facts. It should be rejected and sent back to staff to be rewritten. I urge this committee or the full board of May 25th to offer a motion removing the SR 710 tunnel for any further consideration in the EIR and EIS, and to revise the EIR and EIS to reflect state law. That's AB 32, SB 350, and SB 375, which mandates reductions in greenhouse gases and in environmental pollution. And SB 743, which states that transportation projects must not only consider traffic congestion, but vehicle miles traveled as well. I'm certain the Metro Board can find a better way to spend $700 million plus than on the 710 tunnel. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Ron Bowe, followed by Stephen Lee.
Good morning. Ron Bowe, Monterey Park resident for nearly 20 years, interim city manager for the city of Monterey Park, and part of the 710 Coalition. The 710 impacts continues to provide traffic congestion throughout many communities, including Monterey Park, adjacent to 710 and 10 freeway. Increases to congestion from the 710 on arterials and collectors continues to increase. The tunnel is the preferred option. Cost should never outweigh the quality of life for many of the communities that are affected. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Lee.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I thank you for your time today. Stephen Lee with the City of Rosemead. The staff report shows exactly what the 710 coalitions and the communities that where the 710 ends knew all along, that the tunnel is the only way to reduce traffic, it's the only way to improve air quality, and it's the only way to improve the quality of life that these communities of Alhambra, Rosemead, Monterey Park, San Gabriel, Temple City, El Monte, etc., including the city of Duarte, has suffered for the last 70 years. This is why this is coming to a head now, and we are urging this committee to receive and file this report, and at the end of the day, support the tunnel option, because it's the only one that will really benefit the communities that are lower income, socioeconomic speaking, as well as blue-collar communities that would normally not be able to fight this issue as well as they could and rely on the communities that are here to do so. But nonetheless, I do also have letters of support from the school districts and the chamber in the city of Rosemead.
Thank you. We'll pick those up. Brian Lewin, you think Vin's spoken already?
Yeah.
Okay, Claire Bogard, followed by Joanne Knuckles, followed by Richard Helgeson.
My name is Claire Bogard, and I'm here representing the No 710 Action Committee. This organization was formed approximately 7 years ago with representatives from many communities of the West San Gabriel Valley. I'm submitting a list at the end of this on the list of the groups who oppose the 710 and with whom we work closely. We're strongly opposed to the proposed 710 tunnel under discussion because it's unrealistic, too costly, has disastrous environmental consequences, and is dangerous. As now designed, it travels through earthquake faults. These impacts have yet to be thoroughly explored in the EIR, and little or no information in the EIR is included about the impacts of the tunnel on two water holding basins in the communities of South Pasadena and Pasadena. After years of drought, we now better understand the crucial importance of those basins, and yet the EIR tells us nothing about the impacts and protection of them. Therefore, on behalf of the No 710 Action Committee, I urge you to remove the tunnel from any further consideration to focus on the locally supported, sensible transportation options that are feasible today, options which our many communities have been studying and enthusiastically support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Joanne Knuckles, resident of South Pasadena for 50 years, member of the South Pasadena Transportation Commission, member of the 710 Stakeholders Outreach Advisory Committee, and 30-year veteran of the 70-year-old 710 Freeway 5 and No 710 Action Committee member. In 2003, the Federal Highway Administration rescinded their approval of the 710 Surface Freeway. In their letter to Caltrans director, they stated, "This project has a long and unique history. Few projects pending before federal highways has been as controversial. The project at the time was a surface freeway, not the dual or single bore toll tunnels proposed today. The controversy has not subsided since the 710 toll tunnel proposal of 2003. In fact, it's become more controversial. For the first time, Metro admits in print that the alternative is not fundable and foreseeable. Federal highways wanted out, and they got out by exiting gracefully by delegating their authority to Caltrans. It's now time for Metro to exit gracefully."
Thank you. Richard Helgeson, followed by Lute Riddle with the Cinnamon Holden's office. Go ahead.
Good morning. I'm Richard Helgeson. I'm a retired government attorney, and I've had oversight in my legal career for literally scores, legal oversight, scores of EIRs. I think this EIR is flawed, and I'm not alone in that. This EIR has been criticized by the EPA, by the SCA-QMD, and by a substantial number of doctors at the Keck School of Medicine and at UCLA. And I urge you to stop spending money on this. We've spent $50 million on the CIR already. I think it's time to move this money over to more deserving transportation projects. And you have the highest fiduciary duty under California law in the administration of these funds. And I think in carrying that out, we need to move on from this freeway. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dr. Falante Graham.
Hi,
I'm the district director for Assemblymember Chris Holden. The tunnel alternative will cause more problems than it solves. First, the funding of $5 billion, that's with a B, or more on the price tag is going to be, we know it's going to have overruns. We also know that the Air Quality Management District concludes that the ERI does not accurately reflect the analysis in the report. And we ask that it be reconsidered. We ask that this tunnel be removed from consideration. Mr. Holden was very strongly supportive of Measure M, which creates jobs and to move the rail transportation forward, as well as SB1, which is the gas tax for infrastructure jobs. That's why we know that the unions will not be impacted if you decide to not support measure, not support this measure for the 710. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mick Hansen, followed by Jesse Latia, followed by Arnold Sachs, followed by Omar Hernandez.
Good morning. My name is Nick Hansen. I represent West Pasadena Residents Association, which is 7,000 households, and the Connecting Pasadena Project. It's a surprise and disconcerting that this unsafe, polluting, and prohibitively expensive alternative is your alternative of choice. As of today, we have yet to see the findings of adverse effects, the FOAE. EPA and AQMD have indicated that the air quality analysis of the EIR is flawed and inadequate. The data supports either no or minimal improvement in mobility, and in the EIR actually, and does not calculate the traffic bleed to surface streets from the tunnel that will choke the cities at its portals. The traffic congestion at the south end is self-induced and due to local development. It is very troubling that a choice has been made prior to the release of the FOAE. The EIR failed to analyze fully adverse effects. We need the facts prior to choosing a disruptive alternative.
Next speaker.
Jessie Laddick, I'm the Director of Advocacy for Pasadena Heritage. We've been involved in this issue since its inception in the late 1970s and continue to have grave concerns, not only for our oldest neighborhoods, but all those adjacent areas that are going to be impacted by some type of tunnel or freeway route. In 2015, we dedicated considerable time and resources to reviewing and commenting on the technical issues that we found in the draft EIR, the inadequate analysis not only of the more than 150 historic properties located above where the tunnel with daylight on our end, but also on the southern end as well. We additionally identified some neighborhood stability issues and pointed to the opportunities that the other alternatives that the EIR looked at would actually offer our communities. We know with concern as a consulting party to the federal Section 106 process that this finding of an adverse effect document, a requirement for the decision-making process, has yet to be released. And we want to remind you that it was a disregard of the process that derailed the surface route in the late 1990s. We join a greater coalition of regional partners, municipal and community groups alike, in urging you to remove the tunnel from this consideration. Thank you.
Arnold Sachs.
Thank you. Good morning, Arnold Sachs. Any idea which way you ever vote? Let's see you vote yes. Any idea for groundbreaking? Any idea when this tunnel will be completed? 2050? 2055? The landscape of LA County? That'll be 120 years of discussion on the 710 freeway. You should do a time capsule. Somebody mentioned something about funding $5 billion. Do you realize that with the 4 sales taxes that are in effect right now and the TVA, which is a 1/4-cent sales tax, the Metro has $36.5 billion a year in in sales tax revenue. That's $1 billion a day to operate Metro. You been on a bus lately? You been on a train lately? You been at a train station? You been on the Green Line lately? $1 billion a day, and that system sucks. It has to improve in order to suck.
Thank you. Omar Hernandez, followed by Peter Chan.
Good morning, my name is Omar Hernandez. I'm here as a resident of Alhambra that lives near the epicenter of the problem, Fremont and Valley. I'm a resident and have become asthmatic due to the air quality, and to say that Latinos and communities of color are not being affected is just ridiculous. My kids in our community need this problem alleviated. If you don't believe the report, I invite all of you to please come down between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. and 2 to 8 p.m. and see the traffic for yourself. This is an environmental injustice issue. Please receive and file.
Thank you. Peter Chan?
Good morning, I'm Peter Chan, Councilmember of Monterey Park, and I urge you to receive and file this environmental report because it's good for all the cities in the neighboring 710 because we have suffered enough for so many years. It's the environmental problems, the pollutions, the traffic jams, and congestion is a burden to the cities. So it's not just Monterey Park, but all those areas in the San Gabriel Valley is affected. And the tunnel is proved to be safe and environmentally sound all over the world. So there's no exception in this 710 extension. So please receive and file this 710 tunnel and move forward because there's been too many years, too much money has been spent on this problem, and so we need extension right away. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes public input.
Comments that were made, and I remember when there was a above ground route being proposed, and there was a concession made by the individuals in the Alhambra area involved to take that off the table in exchange for support to put a tunnel in. And obviously things have changed, and now those individuals that supported that agreement are no longer around. My frustration is, as someone who lives there, that the congestion now that's in play is impacting the communities across the board. What used to take me a half an hour to run errands on a Saturday now takes a good hour, hour and a half in the same area that is impacted by traffic that is terminating at the 710 freeway. I talked to someone from Caltrans who designed the on-ramp from the 210 to the 134 right there. It was never designed to take on the capacity it's taking on now. Arguably one of the worst intersections as it relates to transitioning off the 210 onto either the 134 or 210 freeway. And during the rainy seasons, trucks in that tunnel are inevitably the ones that are causing accidents, speeding, and it's because that, again, that tunnel in that area was not built to take on the traffic that's there now. My question to Metro is, have you taken into consideration advanced technology as it relates to the autonomous cars and all, and if so, what impact do you think that will have on traffic flow moving forward?
Or is that a different group? Are you saying within this environmental document itself, or just
within this environment? Yeah, looking forward in terms of traffic. I know we have not done the traffic and revenue study, but I'm just curious to know what consideration was taken on future growth in the region and technology.
Yes, early on our study, that was one of the requests to look at the emerging technologies, and we did look at connected vehicles and autonomous cars. But at the time that we looked at alternatives early on, the technology wasn't in a position to be implemented. So that was about 3 or 4 years ago, so we didn't take it further in the environmental document. But we did look at that as a possible alternative early on.
And I know that Alhambra submitted a letter that stated that they don't think that P3s should be considered. Realistically, knowing that the amount of money that's on the table and the cost that's now estimated $5.3 billion for a tunnel, do you think it's realistic not to consider P3s? And then follow up to that question, is this project, given the amount of money and the fact that there's no money in Measure M and only Measure R money, do you think it's realistic to believe that a P3 would be feasible with nearly 50% needed for funding?
Well, on the P3 side, normally what it takes is to first identify what option will go forward at the end of the environmental process. If the tunnel is selected to be the preferred alternative going forward, then there's going to be several steps to take place before a P3 determination is done. On the other projects that Metro has considered as good candidates for a P3 process, we do all analysis to determine where the sources of potential funds are going to be, whether revenue generated by the project or money coming from outside resources. So the tunnel option currently includes toll option. If that is the preferred alternative selected, then the next steps is to identify the financial feasibility of it by a very thorough toll and revenue study. The agency will do normally a level 2 study to determine from our side what our expectation of revenue is going to be, and based on the embedded assumptions, the private entity that comes in will do their own, as far as an investment grade study is concerned.
But the projection is, I think, I don't know if I heard it, but I thought you said about 50% given the amount on the table.
Based on the current assumptions, and then obviously with validation going forward. Now, one other thing about the autonomous vehicles and technology is that there is an ITS component in the TSM TDM options that were considered in the environmental process. And that's an open dialogue. As the technology evolves, that's one thing that can be studied under the TSM TDM option for short-range usage of the technology in the corridor. So again, as we go forward, this picture will be more complete than what is currently warranted under the environmental.
Okay, I don't know if this question is for you, Phil, or for you all. I know that Measure M did not earmark money for the 710 tunnel, but is there Measure M dollars available to cities and even in the unincorporated areas in that region that could be applied to mitigation as it relates to the impact right now that the traffic is having on the communities that are affected?
Measure R money is currently available in the...
Aside from the Measure R that's already earmarked, is there money in Measure M that, while not specifically earmarked for mitigation on the 710, could be used for some? I mean, I know I've seen beyond the 710's plan, and aside from the 710 that's earmarked in Measure R, is there money in Measure M that could be used?
In Measure M, I don't know if David is here, but in Measure M, there are sub-regional allocations to San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments that will be allocated to projects based on agreements within the COG with the recipient cities, be it the Highway Operational Improvement Subfund or the local return subfunds that can pay for these kind of projects.
Yeah, and I was going to mention the local return piece that could be used for that if those cities so choose.
So there is the ability to okay.
I want to clarify on that. There is a prohibition on funds being used in Measure M for the 710. Does that also cover local return? I think we need to be...
Well, the projects under TSMTD or any other project that comes in...
I'm just going specifically to the Measure M ordinance. There was language inserted to prohibit funding from being used in the 710. Now, I think the idea at the time was that there would be no other dollars from M I guess I thought that applied to local return, but I'm not sure, but I presumed as well that you might be able to use R or C or other sources.
Yeah, that may be a question that we would ask our Crack County Council.
I don't have the M ordinance in front of me.
But it's a technical question, I think. And I'm not sure if county council is prepared to answer that, but.
Yeah, we'll look into that issue.
Okay, I would appreciate that. And let me just say last but not least, I appreciated the comment from our city council representative from South Pass about talking with the city council member from Alhambra. Because I personally, as a representative of both cities, am disheartened by how this has become a personal attack on individuals and not on a project. And as someone who, throughout my entire political career, has had the honor of working with the representatives from Alhambra, this is something that is very near and dear to her community. And I just appreciate it. I just want to say thank you for your comment and for recognizing that this is an issue that at the end of the day, you've got to discuss as adults and not get personal. And so with that, I will yield to other people for questions. I may have more, but right now that's it.
Thank you. I am asking someone to find out what M says so we can clarify that on a factual basis for that. So somebody here must have the M ordinance.
The ordinance says no net revenues may be used for the project, so local return is a net revenue. All monies from Measure M would be net revenues of the ordinance, and the ordinance says no net revenues can be used for the project.
And I guess I would ask, what is the, I'm not talking about tunnel, I'm talking about mitigation as it relates to traffic flow. Take the tunnel out. That's really what I'm asking.
We'll look at that.
Okay, Director Jamal Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to everyone who's come out today. Special thanks to Abdullah for your 36 years focus on this project and your staff for their true aid. And as I've listened to the testimony, I've heard upwards of 41 years of commitment to this project. When I joined the board, my first reading material was a 9-inch binder about the 710 that was delivered to my office with a simple note, enjoy. As all of you know, there's been many discussions about this project since the draft environmental documents were released a couple of years ago, with a lot of community input and testimony every time this topic has been brought up. I am just concerned about whether the report is consistent with the current transportation needs in the Los Angeles region. In particular, we have heard clearly from the residents of the El Cerrito section in the city of Los Angeles that this is not a transportation solution they desire. Clearly with the testimony today about the environmental justice impacts, there is more that needs to be decided. Given that, Mr. Chair and fellow board members, I'm not ready to act on the report today and believe that a broad and comprehensive discussion with the full board in order to try to come to consensus is very important. I yield for other members to speak, but I am truly in favor of moving this item forward to the full board.
Thank you. Let's see, next would be me. I'm going to speak at this point, representing the San Gabriel Valley for a number of years, and I'll give my own little history. And Mr. Dolly stated that I've been involved in this since '71. Actually, I was in high school then, toward the latter days, but I actually just got my license that year. So I may have been dreaming of the 710 because certainly there was support for the 710 in my household when I grew up to close the gap. I actually believe the findings of the environmental document do make sense. I understand it from a mobility standpoint for connecting what is a very scarce highway system given the amount of growth that's taking place and the amount of goods being moved. I didn't really directly get involved in this toward maybe the late 80s. And I will say that, Metro was formed in 1993, and there were some transition meetings that took place at the time. I go back to the original days of the board with the Rapid Transit District and the Los Angeles County Transportation Commission boards. The three boards prior to Metro officially taking over, I think in March of that year, the three boards got together, I think 2 or 3 times to discuss transition. And one of those, as I recall, I think the very first one was on Sunday of all days. It was probably the only day that people could clear calendars. So I recall cutting across the 210, heading south on Orange Grove because the gap hadn't been closed yet. And I'm heading south, and I was a little bit above the entrance to the 110, and I see this police car in the street across the street. So I think nothing of it. Then I round the corner, and there's all these cones set up, and I get pulled over to the side and rightfully written up for exceeding the speed limit in South Pasadena. But I know it occurred to me that, gee, if that gap had been there, I actually could have been going quicker and made my way to the board meeting. So I've been, notwithstanding that particular incident, I believe that it made sense to close the gap, to fill it, to make the connections that are necessary. It was included within Measure R, some funding, the $780 million. I think with the leadership, I think then of Senator Cedillo, I think he helped carry that in the legislature to make that a part of Measure R. It was also assigned to the San Gabriel Valley subregion. Funds, much as with Measure M, were assigned to different subregions. For 2008, for Measure R, the 710 San Gabriel Valley subregion did include Pasadena and South Pasadena, which for Measure M, I think were included with Thorold and Verdugo. So I will say from that standpoint, I know there have been talk, gee, isn't the 710 a regional highway? One of the things I always thought made sense was that it would really take pressure off the 101 and the 5, coming up through Los Angeles as a bypass to downtown. It totally made sense to me. So we saw it as more of a regional issue, but we're told, no, that's San Gabriel Valley funds. So that was assigned to us for our fair share. Long story short, getting to today, the problem I have today, while I support the fighting for the tunnel, to me it seems that the path is run out to obtain the funding and the resources needed to get this thing built. And, I've asked Phil Washington, because I think we had a lot of interest in the P3 partnerships. I think Dragados came out to my own city and did a presentation in San Gabriel Valley of some of the tunneling work that they're doing around the world. And these tunnels admittedly are bigger than what we were using on our subways. But I think there was interest in the P3, but what I'm hearing now is that while we've been out there soliciting proposals, we've gotten interest in the West Santa Ana branch. We're getting interest in the Orange Line, but we're not getting interest in this project because of the risk and the fear of litigation and just how long this project has gone and all the political issues that have been involved with it. I don't see, I wish I could say, I wish there was a way I could, as a chair, schedule the groundbreaking next week, but I think you all know that won't happen. Some of you are extremely grateful for that, and some of you probably wish that I could do that. But I'm not seeing a path at this point to getting this funded. I'm also somewhat concerned, and again, stating, for my colleagues here, that you should not covet your neighboring subregion's funds, that I think at some point, if we are not stewards of these funds, that we don't try and figure out something to put these funds to use. People are going to be wondering, what are we doing with the funding, and how is it being drained away? We did spend $50 million on this environmental document so far. I think it was extremely thorough. There are many that have a lot of questions about it, but I think the work was exhaustive and extremely detailed. So with all that having been said, I think it's time to move toward more immediate solutions. So I'm going to read a motion. And I know I've discussed this with some, but I want to read it in at this point in time. Right now, I'm the sole author of this motion. It states the expenditure plan for Measure R, approved by voters in 2008, included $780 million assigned to the San Gabriel Valley subregion for the SB 710 North project under the Highway Capital Subfund. The estimated $3+ billion in 2014 dollars that will be required to pay for design, and construction of a single-bore freeway tunnel is not available, and the BRT and the LRT alternatives may not produce the expected traffic impact mitigation. To implement mobility improvements that are fundable with existing resources and bring some relief to affected corridor cities, at this point, I move that the Metro Board, 1, support adoption of the Transportation System Management / Transportation Demand Management alternative as a locally preferred alternative and defer a decision on any other alternative for future consideration by the board until the community collectively agrees on the value of that investment and funds are identified to implement a project. This decision and the board's vote will allow for timely implementation of cost-effective transportation improvements that would include the projects that have support by affected jurisdictions on the TSM-TDM list in the EIS-EIR, as well as additional improvements consistent with the purpose and need statement of the projects in communities along the corridor. The new Major R and Government Code 54237.7 projects, which are described further in this motion, are not included in the environmental document. They are not to be included in the 710 document, but would undergo their own environmental process and clearance as necessary. Next, item 2, allocate $105 million of Major R funds available for the Interstate 710 North Gap Closure Tunnel project for development and implementation of TSM TDM projects listed in the EIS-EIR. Number 3, allocate remaining Major R funds available for the Interstate 710 North Gap Closure Tunnel project for new mobility improvement projects within the San Gabriel Valley subregion, if consistent with the purpose and need of the gap closure project, to relieve congestion of local streets along the SR 710 alignment between the I-10 and the I-210, with highest priority for projects proximate to I-10. Newly proposed projects not included in the environmental document will undergo their own environmental process and clearance as necessary. Item 4, consult with affected jurisdictions at Caltrans and report back to the Metro Board within 90 days on a procedure to initiate the identification of projects to be funded through the SR 710 rehabilitation account as prescribed in Government Code 54237.7. Such projects are to be located in Pasadena, South Pasadena, Alhambra, La Cañada, Flint Ridge, and the 90032 postal zip code, and may include, but are not limited to, sound walls, transit, and rail capital improvements, bikeways, pedestrian improvements, signal synchronization, left turn signals, and major street resurfacing, rehabilitation, and reconstruction. Metro shall be responsible for submitting the list of projects to the California Transportation Commission, who will have the final authority to approve those projects. Item 5, we're getting to the end here. Encourage the corridor cities, Caltrans, and Metro to collectively pursue policies and actions that promote smart and functional land use, reduce automobile dependency, encourage multimodal trips, improve traffic operations, and maximize the use of the latest available technologies to enhance the performance of the existing transportation system to minimize impacts of the regional traffic on the communities along the SR 710 corridor. 6, encourage Caltrans working with Metro and affected jurisdictions to identify corrective measures to contain the regional traffic on the freeway system and minimize impacts on the local street network in the 710 corridor. 7, direct the Metro staff to work with Caltrans, the corridor cities, and other affected jurisdictions to identify and pursue new Measure R and Government Code 54237.7 projects referenced in this motion. And item 8, report back to the board when Caltrans selects a preferred alternative. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We have additional discussion, I think, Director DeJerry.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you're after me.
I think it has. I will call you after.
Unless you like, unless you'd like to go ahead.
No, I was after you, but
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If Metro or the County of Los Angeles ever had a Profiles in Courage Award, I would definitely nominate you. And the reason I say that is because this has been an extremely difficult issue that the region and the county has had to grapple with for 40 years, 50 years. And I realize it is not unnoticed that many of your constituent cities have strong positions on this, both sides of this tunnel issue. So I can only imagine the type of internal conflict that you must have had through these years. And I do applaud your leadership for taking a strong stand, and hopefully this will be something that will go to the board, approved by the board, and bring some traffic relief to the corridor. I'm relatively new to this conflict. I started the Metro Board about 10 years ago, but I can assure you that my scars from battle are as deep as anyone else's up here. It's been rather intense. The key is to bring relief to the corridor and not hold on to one particular mode of transportation that is clearly challenged with funding, it's clearly challenged with environmental issues, challenged with historical preservation issues, challenged with the air quality issues, and that means this is almost certainly, to pursue a tunnel, is almost certainly going to end up in litigation in federal court, and this will be continue to be a thorn in everyone's foot as we try and move forward. There's plenty of money left in the Measure R allocation. Only 50 or 60 million has been spent on the EIR. That's over $700 million that can do incredible projects in the cities of Alhambra, Rosemead, Monterey Park, South Pasadena, Locking Out of Flint Ridge. These dollars are ready now, and all it takes is the cities to come together and decide how the money is going to be allocated. I extend an invitation to the cities who have previously and still currently advocate for the tunnel project to come to the table. Sit down with your neighboring cities, and John, and staff, and Mary Lou, and the supervisors, all affected, and the mayor's office, and the Councilman Huizar, Councilman Cedillo, pick out the best projects that can be funded today, that can provide immediate relief to your communities. And you will be the winners, and you can go back to your communities with your heads held high and say, this is what I'm able to bring to you today, and this is going to be done next year or the year after, and it'll make the quality of life better for all of your residents, and that is nothing to be ashamed of. This is not a I won, you won. This is let's make the transportation system better for everyone with the funds that we have and with the real probability and feasible projects that are out there. So, Mr. Chair, I just want to applaud your hard work, as well as your board deputy, Mary Lou, in working on this. I hope that this motion does pass the board, and I hope that the cities all come together. And it's a shame on the passing of Dave Spence. I have to tell you, I know he had a wonderful relationship with Barbara Messina and some of the other cities, and I know he would have been a true ambassador and diplomat to bring these cities together. And I do mourn his passing, Terry, as well as you do. So with that, I'm going to zip it up. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments. I know that you worn some of the arrows through this process as well, through the area that you represent. Director Hunt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am really newer to this issue, but I will tell you what I'm not new to is the incredible congestion that the 710 creates at both ends. I've represented the ports of San Pedro for my entire political career since 1997. I now represent the Port of Long Beach, and I do know that the 710 freeway is the major artery for 50% of all the cargo that comes through our ports is trucked. And I know that while I am not new to the issues of the congestion and pollution at the other end of the 710, what I am aware of is the congestion and the pollution that has terribly impacted my communities of Wilmington and San Pedro. They have higher instances of cancer, of asthma. And while we at one point hoped to have the SR 47, which would actually have sort of closed the gap on the southern end to allow the trucks to just pretty much bypass the communities and go straight onto Terminal Island. That project's never been built. And in the meantime, the congestion is worse. The trucks at that end will drive through people's neighborhoods. The idling at the point where trucks are trying to make their last load or drop off or pickup is incredibly damaging to people's health, particularly for our children, particularly for our elderly. And I know the same thing, now I'm aware, is happening on the other end of the 710. And I met with the coalition, the 710 coalition last weekend, and I was compelled by their pleas about the health and safety of their residents, of the children in the schools, and the fact that this draft report actually calls out the tunnel as being the best solution to these issues. I think that's the part that's troubling, I think, for all of us. And I'll tell you what else is troubling for me, colleagues. You know, I am very, very sensitive about the voters who approve our measures. You know, my dad was the first one to put a sales tax increase in 1980, Measure A. And the voters entrust us with their money. And in turn, you know, when we break promises, I think that's harmful in the future. And I know that Measure R, their voters approved Measure R with this project and the money called out in it. And I know that a lot of my cities that I represent now were hesitant to vote for Measure M because they felt a lot of the projects that were promised in R were not going to be built for, you know, way out in the future. And I also was compelled that the 710 Coalition said they specifically left the tunnel out of Measure M. They wanted to be team players. They thought that would be a poison pill for a lot of people and were willing to sort of take that out of M in return for cooperation, for work, for a sense that we would try to keep this project alive. So I get nervous when we just decide to take money that was appropriated for a project and vote, you know, with the majority of the board, but that's what we do, and reappropriate it. And I worry about, you know, my projects in my district. Is there going to be a board that's just going to decide at some point, well, you know what, we don't really agree with those projects anymore, let's reappropriate the money. And I think this will not be the last time we go to the voters and ask for them to support a transportation tax increase. And I just want us to be aware that when we do this, we're basically saying to those who did vote for this, who did approve this, that we decided that it's not worthy of us following through anymore. I do think this is an environmental justice issue. It does feel like polling shows there is support for this. So while I know we're not voting for the tunnel today, I I do know, John, that your motion effectively kills it. But I do understand that if we don't vote to appropriate that money to these cities, somebody else will make a grab for it. But when I talk to these cities, they don't want this money for these other projects. And I will tell you, if I told Wilmington that the best we could do for them was signal synchronization and sound walls, and a few of these other projects, they would scream bloody murder, because that doesn't relieve congestion. That really doesn't change the flow of traffic in a major way to reduce pollution. So I feel like, I know you guys all feel like this. How many of you remember Gil Lindsey? And decades ago on the City Council of Los Angeles, Gil Lindsey said, I have friends on this side, I have friends on this side, I'm going to vote with my friends. I think you're all feeling that today, but I would prefer to vote to receive and file this. Have the fight for another day. Thank you.
Director Barker.
Well, thank you, Janice. I echo what Ara said about John Quintana. I'm new to the board, and obviously I was a staff person for President Tonovich, who represented both areas as well. And the minute I came on the board, I know that there's movement to get a resolution as it relates to the project, both from the standpoint of impact to the communities, but also from the standpoint of the fact that there is money sitting there, and now there are studies showing, and P3s are not viable as it relates to this project, given the money that's on the table. And I am torn, because, to your point, Janice, we have an obligation with stewards of taxpayer dollars. And again, I highlight the fact that the Yes on the Tunnel, the 710 Coalition, has conceded, even as early as on Measure M, to back out the money because they knew that it would polarize and may put into peril the passage of Measure M. And so I hear you loud and clear. But my concern is also to protect the cities that are impacted. And while it's calling out 90032, and that is El Sereno, my concern is that if we don't take decisive action as it relates to the funding, that it's going to be taken away by those that, while some of the cities may say they don't want it, there are cities that do want it. And my fear is that we're going to cut off our nose to spite our face. And, I'm really torn on this. I feel that as leaders elected, we have an obligation to make decisions, sometimes not necessarily what we personally want, but what is in the best interest of our district, or in this case, my district. And, John, to your credit, because you do have friends on both sides, and so you are going to vote with your friends, but there's going to be, neither side is going to be completely happy, is what I think is going to come out of this. And to receive and file is kicking the can, and that is my frustration, is that we receive and file. My fear is that we have a lawsuit that is going to then further drag this out. And I think that we as elected officials have an obligation to make decisions, unless someone can steer me otherwise. My fear is that by kicking the can, we are merely prolonging maybe the inevitable. But I have a question for Caltrans, for Carrie. Where is Caltrans on this project as it relates to funding? We're talking about it on a local level, and one of the frustrations that I've always had is that Caltrans is going to be maintaining, correct? And this is going to be part of their freeway system. So where is Caltrans on this? Because you all are a partner, and I would just be curious to know if you all have money or you're willing to set aside money at the state level if this is an important transportation need for you.
So in legislation back in 1991, Metro and all the other MPOs, Metropolitan Planning Organizations, got 75% of the state transportation dollars for highway expansion projects such as 710. So this agency got that, although this was measure dollars. So that's where that funding comes from. So there is not state, there isn't any state planning dollars on that. If there is in the future, it could go to that. So we would maintain it after it was done, but I don't think there was any funding in it. I'd have to ask staff. I think it's measure dollars on it. So,
Okay.
yeah. And the SB1 is fix it first. That's coming down the pipe.
Fix it.
Fix it first, preserve infrastructure because of the damage to the system. So
And
it's
there were
not.
a few projects before bills.
Yeah.
Thank you. Director DePaul Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The resolution, which I'm very pleased you read thoroughly, provides us with a path forward. And I think that path forward is something that all of us hope we can find on our watch. And I think it's rather significant that it's on your watch as chair that we have the opportunity, especially while there is historic memory, they can sit at the table and be in the room to try to find something. Mayor Garcetti has signaled during his term as mayor his strong support for the entire county, having convened all of the stakeholders, mayors and others to talk about the county, not LA and the other 87. I am concerned, however, that I did not see the city of LA listed among the areas for projects. I tried to quickly identify zip code 90032, but I'm not sure that is the city of LA. So I will continue while wanting to find a path forward to ensure that the portion of the city of LA that's a part of this would be appropriately represented, and I would still then hope to move this forward to the full consideration. But thank you again for your efforts.
Thank you. And the 9032, that particular section was for the property sales of the housing, and that was spelled out in state legislation. The alternatives, the TDSM, TDM alternative within the report. And I do want to go back to what we were talking about. We were adopting an option within the Major R project with TSM, TDM. It is one of the options. There are definitely performance benefits to the tunnel, but we don't have the funding for it. The staff report that came out with Major R, there was, at the time that came out, they allocated funds to each of the regions. The regional connector was allocated to every sub-region. Actually, it wasn't allocated to North LA County, it wasn't allocated to Arroyo Verdugo. The 710 was only allocated to the San Gabriel Valley. So within the TSM TDM funding that was identified, some of that is in the 9032. And I think it's appropriate within the project that those projects that were identified should move forward. But I think the remaining funds, it is also appropriate that those should be within the San Gabriel Valley, consistent with how the Major R allocation was done. We have the motion before us. Are there any other comments by directors? I will ask for a roll call. It basically moves to implement mobility improvements that are fundable with existing resources and bring some immediate relief. It adopts TSM TDM as a locally preferred alternative. And I'm summarizing here. It does provide the funding for TSM TDM that was included within the EIS and all those projects. The remaining funds of this, approximately 600 million that be remaining after that, would then be moved to other projects that would benefit the corridor cities within the San Gabriel Valley to be defined. Those projects and the projects for the sale of properties, under code 54237.7 would all undergo a separate environmental process. So I think that's the summary of where we're at. And ultimately, Caltrans will adopt the final preferred alternative and get back to us, to the board. We're directing staff to report back. Director Hahn, then Director Barker.
Yeah, just procedurally, what happens if your motion is approved? It goes then as a recommendation to the full, or it moves on to the full board. What happens to this report that calls out the tunnel as the preferred alternative?
That report would still go to Caltrans. I mean, that still is indicated. There are two things happening. Caltrans has the jurisdiction over the environmental documents, but the funding sources that are in the project right now are local funds. So this board cannot amend Measure R without notifying the legislature, I think, with at least 12 months' notice. But the motion is designed to be consistent with the alternatives that were described and within the corridor that was described within the environmental documents. So in that sense, it is consistent with the Measure R project definition.
And what's the motion to, what's on the agenda is to receive and file this report.
This report would be received and filed, but this motion largely would reprogram the funds. It would state our preference for a locally preferred alternative.
Don't we have to vote on receiving and file?
We can vote on that as well, in addition to my motion.
Okay.
And I will take that as a friendly amendment that it also incorporates the receiving and filing of the report.
No, I would actually like to bifurcate those two.
Okay, that's fine. We'll bifurcate. Okay.
Could also get clarity, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Voting yes on the motion means that it goes forward with recommendation from the committee versus my earlier recommendations go forward without recommendation.
That's correct. And my intent is that it go forward with the recommendation of the committee to the full board for their consideration.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Director Barker.
If it went forward today, would it come to the full board of Metro for discussion? Or is it?
It will, because this motion is with it. So it will go to the full board.
So this action will be brought to the full board?
Yes, it will.
The receive and file would too.
Yes.
Right.
Receive and file would too?
Well, the receive and file for the...
I was told it would not.
It will, because this motion was brought in to the committee.
But if this motion had not, and I apologize.
If this motion had come out coincident with the staff report, if everybody had been able to see it prior to today, we could have placed it on consent, would be my understanding, but I'll defer to Mr. Safer.
Well, the motion itself is not an agenda, so it should move forward to the full board for action. Right.
As a committee, we can, with a recommendation.
Right, because what the committee action is basically a recommendation, but the final action is going to be done by the board, and it'll be an agendized item. Right now, it's not an agendized item.
So my question though is then take the motion off the table right now. If there were no motion and we and the committee took this and did a receive and file, it would not go up to the full board, correct?
Typically, receiving files are dealt with at the committee level.
Correct.
It
So
doesn't mean that.
So this motion.
Board member could
So this motion will allow this to move out. I mean, this motion will move this up to the full board for discussion.
Yes.
I will say, I think if we just did the receive and file, I'm confident that one of my colleagues would pull the receive and file, so we would still have a discussion with the full board.
I agree.
Okay, I'm willing to bifurcate, first being the receive and file of the environmental document. Can we have a roll call on that?
Director Vaughn? Yes. Director Barker?
Yes.
Director Jerry?
No.
Director DuPont Walker? No. Chair Fasano?
Yes. So the receive and file passes. We're not going to go to the motion that I introduced. Let's have a vote on that. And I'll ask for a roll call as well. This motion.
For your motion?
Yes, with the recommendation from the committee.
No. Victor Barger?
Yes.
Mr. Najeri?
Yes.
Yes. Motion carries on a 3-2 vote. Both items will go to the board. One is a receive and file, the other with a recommendation. There is no further business before this committee. We have general public comments. Tom Williams.